8 o'clock in the morning in Liberia's capital, Monrovia. Jonathan Doma is a guest on the live show Radio Maria. He reports about the latest incidents of corruption in the education system. The 28-year-old works for the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. Today he speaks about corruption in schools, about teachers putting money intended for books into their own pockets. The radio show is an important platform for the activist.
It is important because the public depends on us a lot. There is a lot that is expected of our work by the public. So we always try our best to share the result of our works, our findings, our research.
On the show, every day more and more people talk about corruption in government institutions and in politics.
Hello, my people. Today we are asking the question: why is it that Africa give corruption kid gloves treatment? You know, Africa treat corruptions. African countries, most of them treat corruption with kid gloves. You know what I mean? They give corruption a kid gloves treatment, which means they're not very serious in how to tackle corruption. And we all know, just by me looking at some of the African countries that are most corrupt, what corruption breeds, it breeds conflict. And you know, when you look at the top countries in the world with most corrupt, you know, Africa is among the top, like South Sudan, Somalia, Libya, Sudan, and many of them. I think it's just these names is just few, because I know that if you come to West Africa, there's lots of corrupt countries in West Africa. You know what I mean? And they give them kid gloves treatment. And for you to know that they give them this treatment, they don't tackle corruption with the strict necessity it demands, because when you look at North Korea, for instance, you can say in North Korea there's total no corruption there, because if you are caught being corrupt in that country, you know where you're gonna go. You're gonna join your ancestors without even the wide world knowing that you have joined your ancestors. You know what I mean? So that's why there's no you can't find corruption there. Like you can find a little bit of corruption in China, but you know they still take it very serious in China. Corruption, you know, if they find you corrupt, they might sentence you to death. You know, you might get death penalty. But North Korea is not gonna even go to court with you. They're gonna deal with you, you know, like you didn't exist. So, but when you look at the African countries, when you look at if you go to those countries and you look at people in jail or in prison, you don't find corrupt people in jail, even corrupt leaders, because in Africa we have lots of corrupt African leaders that they don't end up in jail. You know what I mean? Even if you put them in jail, when another person comes in power that they have connection, that's corruption. You know, they will get out of jail. You know what I mean? Out of prison. But the problem we have is that corruption, if you're a leader of a country in Africa and you believe that you're not tackling corruption with the urgency it needs, what's going to happen is that there will be conflict. It brings conflict because corruption makes things, you know, it makes things not to work. You know, imagine a country where everything is corrupt. Even you're giving contract to do something, you know, to build a road in a country, and those money is not gonna go in building the roads. You know what I mean? Or electricity. You know, because of corruption, you see the impact of corruption in Africa. It doesn't help anyone. The only people that it helps is those corrupt people in Africa. And it's not like it helps them, like they still get this money they get from corruption means, and they still suffer the consequences, because, like, for instance, somebody giving money to make sure that there is a electricity project in a country, and they decided to take 50% of that money they give it for the project. What's going to happen? Many people in their country are not going to have electricity, because there's you are corrupt. You didn't put that money to bring in electricity in your country. You know what I mean? So people being corrupt, it impacts any person, even society, negatively. You know what I mean? And when you look at what is happening in Africa, why they don't take it serious, even when they find somebody corrupt, they're gonna sometimes they just give these people a little bit of stress and they let them go. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of corrupt people in the past, even currently in Africa, that just they're just free roaming around in Africa. Nobody's is talking about for them to return this money they have taken. And there's no reason why you cannot treat corruption as with the strict measure it demands. Because when you look at other countries that don't tolerate corruption, you see that the corruption is almost like zero there. You know what I mean? You can go to North Korea and they give you money to even like for education or to build roads, and you take that money. If you take that money, you must be out of that country, because if you are still in that country and they catch you, I mean, you're not gonna that day they caught you, you're gonna join your ancestors that day. That is guaranteed, guaranteed that you will join your ancestors in North Korea for being corrupt. But the part of Africa, like in Nigeria, those politicians are very, very corrupt there. And the thing is that even when they catch them embezzling public fund for common good, there's no much law. Some of them will even go to when they're on the trial, they start to, faint, fake that they are sick, stuff like that. You know what I mean? And but by the end of the day, when the interests of the public are not there, they get scot-free, And that's why corruption still continues. And anywhere there is corruption, there will be conflict. And they go hand in hand. There's no way to escape corruption where there's conflict. Look at look at Sudan. Look at Libya. All those countries have high mark of corrupt stuff marks in Africa. Those countries they grade them as being corrupt. But there's another stuff I want to make. Because when you look at those people ranking these corrupt countries, they give you some reasons. Those reasons, some of them are not valid reasons. They will say weak governance, like weak democracy. Like democracy stops corruption. It doesn't. Democracy doesn't stop corruption because North Korea doesn't have democracy. But there's almost zero corruption in North Korea. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our video. Peace.